All right, what's up, Dadhood? Welcome to another episode. I'm bringing in Jackie this time as an expert to talk about sleep and really how do we get the little ones down. I know for me personally, this is a super frustrating time with my boys because it was like one step forward, three back, it felt like constantly. So I'm so excited, Jackie, to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So let the people know, Jackie, they're listening to the episode, like a sleep consultant, like what does that
Yeah.
mean? And like, how do you do the things that you do, really?
Yeah. Okay. I know. It's kind of an interesting field. And like, first of all, I mean, I don't know if I should say this or not, because I do want people to know I'm a professional certified pediatric sleep consultant.
Mhm.
But I also have a background in marketing and advertising. And so I'm just going to give you my quick spiel of like what brought me into this. Because it's related because I was very skeptical of this at first. Like I was like, what do you mean? Like a baby sleep doctor? That's weird. So I was like working my marketing job and had my baby about like, I had her, my firstborn about 8 months ago. No, not now, but like it had been 8 months of like sleepless nights basically.
Sure.
And so we were also pandemic. We moved across the country from like from West Coast to East Coast. So there were a lot of stressors and we weren't sleeping. So I was like, okay, I got really desperate and I was like, what do we do? And a family member, like, just kind of like, just so happened to refer us to this like pediatric sleep consultant. She was like, honestly, the lady did wonders for me. I don't know. I mean, you can't hurt. Maybe you should just talk to her. And I was like, I don't know. I just was like, what is that? I just did not like fully buy it at first, because I'm like, well, every parent has trouble with like their babies don't sleep, like, right? That's the whole like joke of it all, except it's not very funny once you like are in it, as you know. It can get dark very quickly. And
Mhm.
so I was like, you know what? I'll just like there's like a free 15-minute intro call, which I do as well, just to be like, meet and greet, like, so you're not talking to a crazy person and like just like ask all those questions of like, is this a real thing? Like, what exactly do you do? Blah, blah, blah. And we hired her, talked with her for 15 minutes. I was like, done and done. I mean, what do I have to lose, honestly, except for like a little bit of money
Mhm.
for my sanity? I was like, my husband and I both, I mean, because we did the whole in the middle of the night, like like the rocking and then like you put them down and then they're up at, in the half an hour. And then like, so there's the anxiety of like, am I going to get into good night's sleep tonight? Am I not? Usually it was not. And so we talked with her and like, she just like talked through all of this with us and was like, here's how I can help you. And I'm not trying to sell anyone anything. Literally in like 2 days, our baby was sleeping through the night, taking naps perfectly. And all we had to do was commit and follow through for the rest of like the week. And we saw a difference. So to answer your question from, a few minutes ago, that like sparked something in me. And I was like, holy crap, because I had also a rough postpartum experience and I'm susceptible to anxiety and depression. We're getting real quick on here.
This is what it's about.
Right? I mean, come on. And I was like, oh my goodness, if there's a way I could help other families through this, like even on the side, like I logged it away. I was like, I'm very interested because that changed our lives.
Hmm.
So cut forward to I had my second baby, right? And she was about 5 months old and we were starting to have some sleep trouble. And I was like, I'm going to get certified in this because I've always been fascinated by sleep anyway.
Sure.
So my mom has like narcolepsy. So like adult sleep was always interesting to me. And
Sure.
then the component of like pediatrics and like how important and vital sleep is to our well-being. And when you look at it through that lens, like, of course it's an amazing industry. It absolutely needed. And it's one of those things with parents. It's like, if you know, like if you don't have a good sleeper, you know, some people don't have an issue. They're like, oh, my baby slept through the night at 6 weeks. Great for you. Not my case. So with my
Right.
second baby, got certified, did like coursework and applied my learnings to my baby, kind of like as an experiment.
Sure.
Worked. And then I started like unofficially helping people. And then I launched my business early this year, Just Sleep Already. And now I'm a certified pediatric sleep consultant, and I help families get a better night's sleep, like holistically, from the initial consultation to like, what's your problem? I do an intake form, like a questionnaire for them. Again, it's not a one size fits all thing, which you'll read about, but it's like really true. And then I come up with a schedule that fits their family, because gets really overwhelming. You read online like that, like, oh, baby's supposed to be in bed by 7, and it's like, well, that's when I get home from work. How am I supposed to? So I coach families through all of that. And then I give them a personalized plan. And then we do troubleshooting together. I give them a log. They log all the times. It's a little bit of like more work up front, but then you see the results and then changes your life. I mean, that's the long and short of it. I don't want to talk too much, but like, that's essentially what I do and why I do it.
Yeah, no, first and foremost, congratulations on starting up the business and
Thanks.
going through doing the work, seeing where there was a pain point in your own life, and then actually like going into a career in a field that addresses that as well and helps alleviate that pain point for others is amazing, right?
Yeah,
I wish
thanks.
more people understood that that's like a good approach to do. Like, when you
Yeah,
find something that doesn't work, like try to help fix it or jump in
right.
and do it. So,
And help the
uh,
next guy, or
right.
or family. Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is the beauty of this. So yeah, it's the dadhood and primarily focusing obviously on men and helping them become best versions of themselves so that they can be the best dads possibly, right? And
Mhm.
I've noticed that like when you especially sleep, I can't speak for other dads, but I'll speak for myself. When I don't get a good night's sleep, I'm not going to show up to be the best dad.
Right.
Um, and then we expect our kids to show up to be the best versions of themselves, but we're not helping them create healthy sleep habits either.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And like, that's why I kind of always try to specify too, like families, because for some reason people associate it a lot with the mother, getting their baby to sleep. And, while traditional gender roles sometimes speak to that, oftentimes the father is just as involved, if not more, if there's, if depending on their work schedules, depending on like what situation they have, and then also just emotionally, like you said, like dads are exhausted too. Like dads want help, like they need the support to get through it. And like the mother, oftentimes there is like a biological connection with the baby of like they don't want to hear them fuss or cry or whatever. And sleep training does not have to like coincide with cry it out, but it does kind of coincide with changing what you're doing, changing your routines and habits, to see positive change in sleep hygiene.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a full family job, and sometimes the mom could use a little emotional support from me and from the dad to be like, look, I got this. Like maybe I take the first part of the night because maybe the baby doesn't smell me the way it smells mom. It doesn't want that breast milk if they're breastfeeding, so like the father's role in this is crucial, I guess is my point.
Yeah, no, 100%. I couldn't agree more. And this whole like notion anymore, and that's what we're trying to do with the dadhood. We're like the stereotypes, how things used to be, whatever. Like
Yeah.
they served, I guess. Well, they didn't serve. They were what they were. We'll just
Yeah.
call it that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like this is a community of especially men that no matter what it is, maybe it's, the two dads in the household, or maybe
Exactly.
it's a single dad. Maybe it's, this, a dad and his partner, however that looks like.
Right.
If they're anything like myself, you want to step in and you want to be a significant role in the family. And you can't do that if both partners or yourself are running on E all the time, right? Um,
Right.
and and I know, like you had said it too, like postpartum, like men get that.
Mm-hmm.
Men get that. Like I had versions of that when I first became a dad, which is funny because all I wanted to do was become one. And then you get this thing and they cry and they're not going to sleep and they're doing all this stuff and your hormones are off, everybody's off. And it's just like,
Yeah.
it's just you, if you can't get processes, you can't get tools, you can't get help. We need help, right?
Yes.
To learn these things. We need a community that says, I feel you. I know what you're going through and we can do this, right? And I didn't even know that I could have reached out and had help with like a sleep consultant, and been able
Mhm.
to go down that. And definitely at that point, I would have been like, who cares what it costs? Like, we're just, because the lack of sleep and the lack of being able to feel like that control, right? Ultimately, in those moments, that's creating more more turmoil than like everyone wants to focus on finance, I guess what I'm going at, right? They're like, well, how much does it cost? But the cost that it's doing to you as an individual is going to be way more than anything monetarily you pay out to get that help with.
Absolutely. It's a really good point. Y- And I think like culturally too, we don't do a great job at supporting parents, like I mean, not to be political, but just in our country,
Mm.
and other countries do get a lot more support. And so in America, we're kind of left with like all the technologies, all the responsibilities, all the, like all of the first world, things without like support for a very crucial part of vitality in life. And I think just to even know that these things are options, like you said, like spreading the awareness is like part of why I wanted to talk with you too, because I saw what you were doing online and stuff. I'm like, that's so important. And we when we think about babies, like you said, we think about finances. Oh, this is going to be expensive, and but we don't think about like the emotions behind it. And there's a lot of guilt of like, well, you wanted these kids, like you always wanted kids. It's like, okay, yeah, but I mean, no, nobody can prepare you
Mm.
for children. So yeah, I'm right there with you on all of that.
So Jackie, talk to me about like what are some of the things when you're working with a client? What are some like those just big takeaways or those moments that you're like, this is actually like changing
Oh,
the life for some of these people?
um, so when I first talk with people, I can usually tell the dynamic. And like a lot of the times there's one like partner that's a little more hesitant than the other. So I like to set my eyes on the one that's more hesitant and make them feel as comfortable as possible and like they're doing the right thing. Because chances are, if they've found me, they have been Googling online. They are struggling. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I know I have to be aware that when they come to me, they're struggling. Sorry, my 3-year-old ironically just woke up from her nap and
Yeah.
she's in there with dad. But I would say like I think a key, like something I take away is looking at them from the beginning of when they came to talk to me and seeing afterwards.
Mm.
And what's cool is I've started to adopt this kind of phrase of no news is good news. So like they'll have a bunch of questions up front and I'll walk them through it and I'll give them a plan to follow. And when they start implementing it, a lot of the times I won't hear anything. And I'm
Yeah.
like, they have a second phone consultation that they paid for. So I'm like, guys, just like reach back out if you need it. But usually that means things are working. And when I check back in, they're like, honestly, I didn't even realize this was possible. I'm, and I sound like an infomercial, but it's true.
Mm.
It really is kind of like an equation sometimes. So, I think like, just like pointing out key things that you can do. Like, I'll just give you an example of if your baby's overtired.
Mhm.
A lot of the times, and especially the older generation, they'll be like, well, they don't look tired. Or like, oh, they could sleep anywhere. Ours, we just toss them in the old, bassinet and they slept for hours. And it's like, okay, well, let's take a step back. Like, SIDS was up significantly back
Mm.
then. You didn't have video monitors. You had or sound. You had no way of monitoring your baby, which like, I get it. On one hand, it's like, wow, they're tough, like they didn't have all the technology we had, like good for you. They'll toughen those babies up. But on the other hand, it's like, no, like there are reasons that technologies were invented and we have them at our disposal, and so I think like just, I guess, being able to look at, okay, your baby's overtired without driving yourself crazy with all these time frames, but like, you know when your baby's tired, but you also can learn a bunch of like cues to be able to tell that they're getting tired. So that you start like a nice wind down routine before they get really tired. Because the switch can go like that, where they go from perfectly pleasant to completely overtired and dysregulated. So honestly, like just giving people like little tips like that, like giving them wake windows, but every baby's different, but like look for these key things to be able to tell whether your baby's getting there. And if you don't necessarily see them, trust the wake windows, trust the experience, so to say, to know that, okay, no, this is time for them to go down. And that can save you like minutes, hours of fussing and crying that you could have avoided. So little things like that.
See, and that's really good advice because like I had no idea, and I still to this point, I'll be honest, have no idea when some of those cues are, because they're ramped up one moment, but it's like maybe they're ramped up because they were tired, and if we would have like slowed it down 10 minutes ago, we wouldn't be in this ramped up stage right now. So I think that that's like excellent advice. And this is where like I want to be able to give these tools, because dad's like, look, you might not be going through this. Maybe your kids are a little older at this point, but we all know somebody who's going through it, right? And to be able to give this resource so they can call and they can contact Jackie, you could reach out and just like set up this initial consultation, because look, Jackie even just said it. She's going to work herself out of a job. Like she's working herself out of the situation that like, if you jump on and paid for 2 calls and she's like solidified it and locked it down for 1, that's amazing. Like ultimately you're getting what you need, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, for the record, I'll still follow up with them and we'll usually have a chat,
Sure.
but like it's just really fulfilling to see you actually make a difference. The other thing is debunking the myth, which I talked about before, of like sleep training, meaning aggressively cry it out. Like there's so much you can do before you get to that point. So that's another thing that I would want to tell, your listeners, is that like, if you have a partner or you yourself like cannot stand the thought of having your baby or kid fuss. Also, there's a difference between fussing and protesting and crying uncontrollably. But there are ways you can fade into a certain method. You can just do little tweaks and things in order to set your kid up for success. It's kind of like, I think about it too as adults, like we need sleep hygiene. Like if you think about it, like you sometimes like might wake up around the same time if you can every day. And then whatever you do during the day, it's helpful for us to fall asleep around the same time, right? So like just being cognizant of that is sleep hygiene. If you have a wind down routine before you go to sleep, that's really helpful. Something that's calming, not like gonna like, buzz you or like be on your phone or all that. Like whatever your soothing, calming routine, you'd be surprised that will help you get into a deeper night's sleep. So it's really like you're kind of training yourself to appreciate it, and then you're kind of bestowing that onto your kids. And once you train them at an early age, they'll go through all those adjustments so much easier. Teething, getting sick, all those things. It'll be like a blip versus throwing everyone off. And like kind of same for adults,
Absolutely. No, this is so good because it really reminds me of this fact that like we want to empower ourselves to have the knowledge and the skills to be able to, make informative choices or to deal best with whatever is thrown in front of us. But what an amazing tool for dads to be able to be equipped with this information to give, if you have a partner, whoever that is in your life, to be able to almost gift them also
Yeah.
with this experience of being like, I've got this. Like, don't worry about it. I've got this. And like, what would that have meant? And I'm sure your husband obviously is like well involved. You were saying like is in there taking care of like the nap, but like if you would have known this information prior to this experience, and he would have been able to say to you like, like, look, Jackie, hey, let me go in. I have this knowledge and this training, and let me handle it. Like, what would that have meant to you?
I think it would have alleviated so much stress. I think I would have been able to do a better job at work. I think I would have been able to be a more present mother, or parent, really. Like you were saying, like we expect them to give, 100% to us, but like we're like hanging in there sometimes at like 11% charged. Um, I think I have found something that parents tell me is that they enjoy their baby a lot more after they're getting a good night's sleep. I mean, that goes hand in hand with being present, but I think the joy and the fulfillment that they're receiving fills up their cup, versus, you know, dreading nighttime because, the routine in general, because they're going to fight. I found that I could have saved a lot of nighttime anxiety, had I known, because you actually get to bond more with your kid, knowing that when you're reading to them that those are cues. You can create your own cues. Like there's their cues and then cues that you create for them. So my babies know now when the book comes out, it's time to like calm down. And when, like, or bath time before that, so you can like draw it out and really appreciate it more. And I can't look back and regret anything, but man, I wish I had known that, because it could have saved me months of like my mental well-being and also let me appreciate my firstborn that much more.
Oh man. And that right there, like if the listeners are going to take anything away from just even this episode, like that right there is so important. Just like we can't go back, right? But if you are able to have the tools and this knowledge to be able to address it now, so you don't have to look back, like what a gift. For the listeners, when they are at this point, or they know somebody that's at this point, like what's the best way for them to get a hold of you, Jackie?
Yeah, you can go to my website, justsleepalready.com, and you go to the contact form. You can either hit the contact form or like get started, book a free intro call, and just fill out the very, very short form, just like your name and email. A lot of times people will jot down like what's going on with them, and then I'll give you a call and we'll do a free chat.
I encourage the listeners, honestly, if you are in this stage of your life, even if you feel like you have a handle on the majority of it, like why not go set up a consultation, check it out, because there might be a couple more tools that you haven't been focusing on. Just like Jackie mentioned, that fact of like knowing some of the cues, like I didn't know any of that. And I'm like extremely curious and like to learn some more information about that. So go check her out. Jump on. Remember, you're not in this process alone. There's experts out there that can make your not just parenting, make your experience, because it's an experience, and make it more enjoyable, right? So is there anything else, Jackie, you'd like to
Go ahead.
share?
Yeah. Yes. For Mother's Day, it's a good gift idea because a lot of the times you get things that I don't know, tangible things are great, flowers are great, but like an amazing gift would be the gift of sleep, not to be cheesy. But with Mother's Day coming up, I would be happy to if you mention DADHOOD podcast, I would be happy to give you 20% off of my services as well. So if you hit the contact form, just put in that you heard of me through DADHOOD, and I'd be happy to help you guys out, whether it's for Mother's Day or just in general. But
Yeah, that is so awesome. Do that. Put in that Dadhood podcast. And you know what? Take another step. I challenge the dads that are listening to this to take the next step with that. Not only set up the consultation, but don't set it up for your partner. Set it up for yourself and really give that true gift of learning the tools, and step up as the dads, step up and actually put in the work, because this is work that pays real dividends in the long run.
a really good point.
Yeah.
Don't give her another chore.
Yeah, then we'll be like, hey, I got you a gift. Now you got to go in and learn something to make your life, more complex.
All on you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that. Anything else that you want to just like share besides that?
I think just something you touched on was if you feel like you've already got it under control, just keep in mind that there are regressions and milestones and travel. There's a lot that you might not foresee. So, kind of like what you said before, a chat, like a gut check. I also do like little 30-minute troubleshooting chats that you don't need a whole plan or anything. That's also available too. And I think just getting ahead of all these issues is like the key to being like a stable parent.
Yes, I love that. Jackie, thank you so much for jumping
Thank
on and
you.
for sharing this. This is such an important thing to be able to offer. Sleep is, man, so important, people, in your life.
Woo.
So being able to also give that, I was thinking about that gift, is you're really giving your children a leg up by giving them the opportunity to have that solid sleep pattern in their life. So
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I know we're wrapping up, but thank you for bringing that up because that really is what's fairest for them. It's they can grow. There's so much growth that goes on during sleep. They can develop, they can learn how to self-soothe, which is just putting themselves back to sleep so that they get solid stretches in versus constant disrupted sleep. Like it's kind of, I liken it sometimes to like swim lessons or riding a bike. Like they might be swimming okay, but like, why don't you give them the tools in order to figure out how to swim on their own so that, you know, not everybody has to freak out when there's water around,
yeah,
you
that
know,
not
like,
the doggy
yeah.
paddle might not ultimately mean they're swimming.
Exactly. Exactly. If they jump into the deep end, you're in real trouble. So, when you hit like bumps along the road, like it's only going to get worse. And also, I just want to tell everybody that they're not alone. Like sleep issues are really, really common and they're just not talked about a lot. And they're also, if they're talked about, it's kind of like as a joke. Like we were hinting at the beginning. It's like, oh, sleepless nights, huh? Ooh, and it's like, no, like this can contribute to a lot of stressors for parents and babies. And I would just encourage people to be really sensitive about it when people are having sleep issues with their baby instead of downplay it or dismiss it or act like, oh, yeah, I had that and we just did this. Like, you know, validate them, tell them that they're seen and that you're sorry they're struggling and going through this, that maybe you've gone through it as well, and that you have help or service if they need it.
Yes, that is so good. Stop the jokes. Like it's not like always this joke, like, oh, it just sucks to be a parent sometime. Like, look, like let's actually get past that surface level nonsense conversations and be there to support one another and really help them. And if you have a tool that you can support, share that tool out. And this here, dads, is a tool. So I hope you take it. If it's not for you, please share it with another dad or another listener that's going through this struggle because they need it. So I appreciate you, Jackie. Thank you so much for jumping on.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for having this platform for dads to just be great humans all around, great partners and great dads, and keep raising the bar.
Thank you. Awesome.